All right, ladies and gentlemen, I ask you, if not him, then who? Mr. Gary Kroger.
Thank you, Kenneth. I'm Gary, and this is the Gary and Kenny Show. Thank you for watching and or listening, whatever it is that you prefer. Kenny, you're all excited today. Why is that?
Not to be excited? The man in the box below me is the infamous Paul Shaffer.
Yes, I wanted to introduce him because it's the one time we could actually.
Does he need an introduction, Paul? Do you need an introduction?
That's my point, as I wanted to say, finally, a guest who needs no introduction.
Okay. All right.
And then I would, well, there you are.
If I may interrupt, I mean, people have short memories. The Letterman show went off 10 years ago. The kids don't even remember Britney Spears anymore.
It is frightening. It is absolutely
How
frightening.
do you expect? I think, I need an introduction.
Well,
All
yes,
right.
Okay. Go ahead, Gary.
Ladies and gentlemen, Paul Allen Wood Shaffer.
That is it. Gary Kroger and Ken Seisler. I don't know your middle names, but don't let that be, I'm still just as enthusiastic.
Paul,
go ahead.
Do you recall
Anybody that doesn't know that Paul was on Saturday Night Live and on the first episode of Saturday Night Live, or does not know that he was on Letterman for all those years, any of those people, then I would say just go get a life. Google him, man. Google it.
Yeah.
Google him. Yeah, Google him.
So let's go right to it, Paul. Have you seen the movie?
No, I haven't seen the movie. Only the trailer so far. And
Paul Rust is in the trailer, right? Who plays you?
Yes.
What's your take on Paul Rust playing you?
Well, I'm not familiar with him as an actor. When I saw that, I saw the shot of my character in the trailer. He's playing me.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, well, they really want to make sure people don't remember that I'm Jewish, because he's got a huge prosthetic nose, this guy.
Well,
and I said, what's going on?
Nose,
but then I saw a picture of the actor. It's his nose.
Right.
He happens to have a formidable nose.
But
I think it must be true of the guy who's playing Lorne Michaels too, because that actor has a huge nose too. Bigger than Lorne's actual nose.
There is something, though, about Paul Rust's face, his expressions, that I can see him being you.
So you've seen it then, Gary, right? You've seen
I've just seen the trailer.
No, we've only seen the trailer.
Just the trailer, yeah. Well, I have a feeling that's my only line in it. I'm saying mine as if I'm in it, but it's like somebody playing me.
It's
Paul. And I think
do they have to
ask
permission?
What was that?
Do they have to ask permission for you?
No,
because you're a public figure, right?
I guess.
Were you consulted? Did anybody ask a question, consult you regarding the movie?
I heard from the director one day. I happened to have met him. It's Ivan Reitman's son,
right.
Jason.
Yeah.
I met him. I was doing The View or something, and he was there with his star, Hugh Jackman. They were there together, and because he had, done an action picture, I guess, with Hugh Jackman. And a lovely guy. And then he called me about something. I can't remember even what it was now, something to confirm something. And I don't remember. So I have had contact with him, but I wouldn't have expected to be, anything else.
Do you anticipate you're going to go see the movie?
Well, of course I'm going to go see it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
I have to see if I got another line. The line in the trailer, it seems the announcer is saying, how do you pronounce this guy's name? And I say, Ackline. That's the way the actor speaks it. So that's going to be it. I'm fine with it. Anytime anybody does me, whether it's, in the middle of a Episcopal impression of Letterman, whatever it is, I'm flattered.
Well,
Which brings me to Gary Kroger.
Which brings you to Gary Kroger.
You used to do me, right?
Yes.
And it was Episcopal, right, who was doing Letterman?
Episcopal doing Letterman.
Because a lot of people have done Letterman on SNL over the years.
And a couple have done you since me, too. But I was the first because you were sitting in with the band. It's 82. And you were just sitting in because you'd left the SNL band.
Oh, yeah.
You just started Letterman. But obviously you started Letterman because you were doing a Letterman spoof. And so Joe asked me if I could do you. And I said, well, fine. Now, back then, you kept hair on the side and you were just, bald on top. So they put a bald cap on me and they cut to me and you're in the band. And my line was something like, You are my music, David. You are my music, or something like that. And I had a couple of lines, but then after the show, Paul, you were giddy. You came up to me and you said, "I'm doable. I'm doable."
You do so. You're starting to sound like me now.
Well, there you.
More so than that guy Russ.
I
But
think so. I should have been asked.
I see. So in other words, I was there at the show when you did that sketch.
Yeah, you were there because you
I
were so.
see.
I'm doable. I'm doable.
I love it. Well, that is the sign of a star, I think.
Yes.
If people
Yes.
can do you, and you did me, yeah. So I appreciate it, and that's why I'm going to go see the movie.
When I talked to you, you said you had an interview before you had doing this. Are you doing like a lot of interviews because the movie's coming out?
No, I'm doing a lot of interviews because everybody's getting a documentary. There's a documentary about absolutely everybody.
That's true.
And I just keep doing them. I'm happy to talk about people. Today's was going to be about Steve Cropper, who was a member of Booker T and the MGs, the instrumental group from Memphis that did Green Onions. And he co-wrote lots of great soul numbers like Midnight Hour and Knock on Wood. And then he was in the Blues Brothers band for John and Danny, Aykroyd and Belushi.
I noticed a little something in my little Paul Shaffer research, and I don't know if this is a story worth repeating or not, but you were working with Gilda's show on Broadway.
Yeah.
You were the musical director, and also for the Blues Brothers, and John had a little conflict of interest of you doing both.
I was just talking about this because I just did this interview about Steve Cropper was our guitar player in the Blues. But yeah, it was the worst thing that's ever happened to me professionally because we had a big hit with first Blues Brothers album, which was called Briefcase Full of Blues, and then Gilda was on SNL too, and she got a record deal, and she asked me and Bob Tischler, the late, but he just died a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah,
Bob Tischler, to do her too. And Belushi said, "Don't do it. Rest up for the movie. It's going to be hard, and you're gonna be in it. You're gonna be a musical director. Rest up." I said, "John, it's Gilda. I came up with her in Toronto. I've got to do it." And then Tischler and I got bogged down. We didn't get it done on time, and it was time for me to report to Chicago to start rehearsing the band for the movie. And I'm not done with Gilda's album, and I had to pull out of the movie. And I felt terrible about it, but I couldn't leave Gilda in the lurch.
Was this a problem? Did you and Belushi have a
big feud
after that?
Yeah.
You did?
Total feud, yeah. And he, there was no social media then, but somehow he released a statement. I don't even know how, but among the Saturday Night Live people, Shaffer is out. He is not a blues brother. He will never be a blues brother. Oh my God, I felt terrible.
You guys never reconciled?
Yes, we reconciled right away. I mean, not right away. A few months went by. They shot the movie in Chicago. I stayed back, and I ended up appearing with Gilda in her Broadway show. And Gilda used to do this thing. One of her sketches on SNL that was in her Broadway show too, where she played a little girl, Judy Miller,
jumping on the bed,
pretending to do a show in her bedroom. Yeah. The Judy Miller show, and she flung herself against the wall and stuff. And I remember we were rehearsing Gilda's show, and I was a little depressed, And Gilda said, "Paul, what's the matter? You seem depressed." And Laura and Michael said, "Well, he was in the Blues Brothers, and now he's in the Judy Miller show." And he sort of nailed it. Well, anyway, we reconciled, and I rejoined them and did the tour. We did a big
because I knew you had
supported the movie, tour. So I was on that tour.
Right.
Sorry, Gary.
Right. So that's why I was surprised to read that. And I shouldn't even bring this up now, but I thought it was really sweet because you admitted way back that you had a little unrequited crush on Gilda.
Oh, you know what? Who didn't? Number one.
Yeah, really. Exactly.
I know.
Exactly.
And I think it really was more of a who didn't, and somebody just picked it up and saw it, and made.
I thought it was sweet.
Gilda and I were well, except for that one night, we were just platonic friends, and really, you know, my best friend Marty Short went out with her in Toronto. So
What do you mean, except for that one night?
Well, never mind. Certain things have to
What do you
remain.
You don't just say except for that one
Except for the one night.
Certain
Next
things
question,
have to
please.
remain,
Moving on.
between Gilda and me.
Okay.
That's all
All
I've
right.
said.
Was there anything significant about the first night of Saturday Night Live that you remember that was put a moment so when you see the movie, you'll go, well, that didn't happen, or this, or
Well,
how
I
come
haven't
you
seen
do
the
that?
movie, but sure,
Right.
I remember a lot, you know, whatever I was privy to. For instance, Lorne, was very, and I really got to hand it to him. He was so open, and I was just Howard's piano player, but his office door was always open, and he would invite, Paul, come on in. We're just talking about Paul Simon and Shelley Duvall. We're just talking about the show. And I would be, you know, all of a sudden involved with these stars. And this one time he said, Paul, we're thinking of opening with this sketch. And it was the famous sketch written by Michael O'Donoghue, where and Belushi is like an immigrant who doesn't speak English, and O'Donoghue's giving him language lessons. And he says, I would like, and Belushi, he's got an act, to feed your fingertips to the Wolverines. And I have got to admit, I didn't get it then at all. I didn't get it. I just figured this must be over my head. I guess I'm not really, you know, I don't quite get it. But I sure got, you know, I guess it was there just to say, this ain't your ordinary show.
Let me, from the perspective of my perspective, because I'm the first generation of college kids, 1975, and we sat down to watch that show. Didn't know what it was going to be.
You were on it. That's kind of amazing.
Well, it was weird. But at that time, there is the show, and there's that Michael O'Donoghue sketch, and that was our reaction. Oh my God, we've never seen anything like this before. So we were hooked from that second on. It defined everything.
So I definitely was wrong in not getting it, but I did it. You know, I figured that this must be to show people that, you know, this ain't your daddy's, whatever they say. It's a different kind of show.
Yeah,
this is not.
But I think in the movie they show it being just from the trailer, and it was reviewed in the LA Times this morning. That, you know, it was this hectic, you know, madcap evening where everything went wrong, and it was, you know, people falling down, and this, you know, it was mayhem and all of that stuff. Do you remember it being mayhem?
No, I don't. I don't remember it being mayhem. I remember it. I mean, something had to happen. It was live. There was no dead air. There was no blank screen at any time. Certainly, there had been a rehearsal, though. I think that there had been a rehearsal on the Friday night.
Right.
There was one famous thing, because I read a review of the movie too, and it talked about the Alexander the Great sketch, which never made it to the air. But I definitely remember that there was a lot of consternation about that, and it was done on Friday. And one person liked it, another person hated it, and it ended up not getting in. So, you know, stuff was certainly going on that I wasn't privy to. But on the other hand, I understand that certain scenes, you know, other stories like the Milton Berle, he wasn't around on the first night, but the stories about him are so great that they decided to bring, you know.
I think it's the Hollywood version of something that really happened. I knew enough from all the stories that were still in the hallways that, that happened, but probably not like this sequentially, like it's going to be in the movie.
Some things even happened on other shows.
They made the movie of the week version of the opening of Saturday Night Live.
You got to make a
but that'll be fun.
Do you watch Saturday Night Live now?
Well, I hate to admit that I'm very much like the wonderful young people of today, and I usually catch the clips the next
on
day
YouTube the next day.
That's what I've been doing today, for instance.
Me too.
Yesterday. Yeah. I didn't see the opening of the season, no, but I mean, I catch it when I can, and if I can't, I watch the clips like everybody else. Which is a shame because it doesn't count in the ratings.
Right.
I still enjoy it. I've enjoyed every era. Not every show, not every sketch, but I've enjoyed. There's never been an era that I didn't think this show is great.
In your years of Saturday Night Live,
yes,
and David Letterman, and your contact with celebrities, which will you say was the most the hero that you were like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm standing with this person?
Well, obviously I got to go with a musical
Right.
performer, and it's James Brown. I say it
Oh,
over and over. There was nothing like it in that very first appearance. I mean, we play when he starts singing and shaking his ass, you play like you never thought you could. And that was the experience that we all had. So that James Brown,
wow.
incredible.
Whose
Uh,
piano do you have in your house? Don't you have somebody's famous?
well, yes, I got his organ.
You
Right.
have James Brown's.
Not long after he died,
Wow.
there was an auction at Christie's. And I think maybe the family needed some money for expenses, and they auctioned off certain key things. And I went and got his organ. I missed it the first time. Nobody was interested. It went by, and they went on to the next item. And I had to make them go back.
Wow.
And this is not the organ that he would have in his show. Actually, from his living room in Augusta,
So do
GA.
you play it? Do you play?
I play it, and I'm telling you, I don't even. It's so funky. It plays itself. They barely have to touch it.
It's got the funk.
It really has. I mean, it's really got something to it.
That is cool. Okay, can I ask you from a non-musical thing, an actor or somebody
Yeah.
that you?
Well, I mean, there's so many of them. One thing that comes to mind is Raquel Welch,
Oh
when
God.
she hosted, because, and I'm 26,
Mm.
but she showed up, and no, there was not really a lot of ideas for her. What are we going to do with her? Chevy had a great idea, but it didn't make the air. He was going to have a show. Welcome, hi, I'm Chevy Chase, and welcome to Take Off Your Shirts. Today's guest is Raquel. That didn't play.
Wow.
And Lauren said to me, Paul, take her into your office and just have her do her act for you, and see if there's anything in there that she could do on this. And here I am at 26, Raquel Welch doing her whole act for me in a little room.
Song and dance,
couldn't
right? Her
believe it.
Vegas act.
I couldn't believe it. Yeah.
That should have been in the movie.
And she kept saying, I could do a hot tamale number. She kept using that phrase, meaning a weird one where she's sexy, I guess. Want me to do my hot tamale
Well,
number.
there's a departure. Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah. Certain things you remember.
It was Gary that told me, and I didn't know this, and we've known each other. You wrote a memoir.
That's right, I did.
You did, which is the greatest title ever for a memoir. We'll be here for the rest of our lives.
Yes.
Genius.
Thank you. It's about 10 years ago now or more that I wrote that memoir. Probably more.
15 years ago.
15 years ago, yeah.
Well, I'm going to read it.
Well, thank you. It's about time. Some might have read it before the interview, but you said, why bother?
No, I didn't know. I did. Paul, I had no idea that you wrote a book.
I know. Isn't that funny? Well, you know what? David Letterman.
Why, did Kathy ever read your book?
Oh, sure. Well, kind of.
Okay.
She read it with one eye. Do you want to hear the story about the title?
Yeah.
It's actually it's in the first. Well, I'll save it. I'll let you read it. It's the first story in the book. We'll be here for the rest of our lives.
Oh, you got to tell a little bit of it.
All right, I'll tell a little. Well, it talks about I was just out of college in Toronto, and I was just working. Like I said to my parents, give me a year to try music, and if I'm starving, I'll go back to school or something. And I was doing all kinds of gigs, bar mitzvahs and weddings and clubs and topless bars, which at that time, this was before DJs. There was a live band in a topless bar, and that's where I was. And I was emceeing too. Topless dancing. We would play like a 40-minute set, and the girls would be on at the top of the show, dance 2 numbers at the top and 2 numbers at the end. And I would bring them on. Ladies and gentlemen, the lovely and talented ladies of the Brassville Go-Go Club.
Let's put a little greenery around the scenery.
I mean, the word skank is such an outdated word, and we don't even think about appearance. But these were some dogs. These girls, and I was like, ladies and gentlemen, the lovely and talented. But nonetheless, all my friends from college suddenly were interested in hearing my music. They all show up at the topless bar, and it was kind of a little embarrassing for me, yet kind of let's face it, titillating, no pun intended. So I closed the end of the night, and all my friends, and well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to wrap things up. I want to thank the lovely ladies, and come back and see us. We're going to be here for the rest of our lives, because it felt like that was going to be my future, in a CD form.
Right.
That's where the title came.
So let me ask you, your musical, do you discover new music? Are you looking for new music, or are you listening? What are your musical tastes?
Admitting that these records aren't made for me anymore. And I'm just sticking with the music that I love.
I got you.
The same 15 records from when I was a kid. I'm still listening to them and hearing new things.
That's great.
You were brought up on jazz, right? Wasn't jazz your first foray? Your father?
No,
loved
my
jazz?
dad loved jazz, and so I have that influence. But rock and roll. So many respected musicians, older guys too. Joe Walsh, for instance, is one guy I had on my show, and he said the same thing that so many of them said. When I saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan, that's when I wanted to be a musician.
Right.
It's not the case for me. I barely noticed the Beatles because I was still reeling from seeing the Four Seasons, doing Big Girls Don't Cry. That killed me. That sound, the way Frankie Valli, and the sound of the backgrounds and the way they looked. They were, they were not kids when they hit with Sherry Baby. Right. They were already in their 30s, Sherry. I never got over it. And that's really, and then the acts on Sullivan, like we would see like Jackie Wilson and Bo Diddley, up in Canada, we were digging American music, not so much the English music. So that's, rock and roll and R&B.
Well, and the Beatles dug the American music. I mean, they always would say when they got here, they couldn't believe they were meeting the Shirelles. They couldn't believe who they were meeting.
Isn't that cool? Yeah, and the Stones too. And they really did a lot for the American performers by saying that. The early blues performer, nobody knew.
But we all shared those moments. It was collective. Now generations are fragmented. They're not all getting the same music. They're in their little pockets watching this particular artist or this particular. There's so many famous people who are artists now I've never heard of.
Oh, I know.
I know. Yeah. So it's very, very.
But sometimes, some still break through. I mean, who can resist Sabrina Carpenter?
I agree with you on that, right?
And that espresso, it's
well, I find it interesting. I now like country music. There's a lot of country music I like.
Country, yes.
And when I was growing up, I hated country music, but now I love it.
I met Sabrina Carpenter. I've taken my daughter Victoria several years to the Clive Davis's pre-Grammy party, and I see her on YouTube, and she's about 25. Really sexy, and I said, "Can I say hello to you?" I was on the Letterman show for 33 years, and I was a band. I just want to say you're terrific. And she looked at me like I was some kind of pervert who shouldn't be anywhere near her.
No, I know. I'm sure.
And I forgot that. Maybe at 75, you're not really supposed to gush over.
Well, because they're not. Yeah, we're not sharing collective experiences at all.
Yeah, but I'm having trouble.
TV shows.
Anybody? I don't look. My own kid said to me once, "Well, Dad, that wasn't my generation. I've never heard of them." Talking about, and I said, "Well, I wasn't around when Lincoln was president, but I've heard of him." I mean, there's a certain investment we have to make in the past. Yeah. I can't believe anybody in music would not know Paul Shaffer. I mean, I'm not just stroking you here. I can't comprehend that. I want to ask the question that shows like this just have to ask.
Yeah.
I want you. What now guides your day? I mean, you've always got projects and things in the fire, but walk me through your inspirations now, or the projects that you've got going, or plans that you have.
Trying to be happy, trying not to. Nobody seems to want to stop anymore. I must say I saw the Rolling Stones in Los Angeles recently, and that Mick Jagger is 82. He's superhuman, you know.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
But not everybody or not everybody's willing to train hard for 6 months like he does, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't think I'm going to keep doing rock and roll.
Yeah, but you can't stop playing. You can't.
No, and you know what I'm doing? One thing I'm doing is I'm practicing again. Because when I was on Letterman playing every day, I didn't need to practice, but I really do now. I want to keep things together. So I am playing a little bit every day and practicing and stuff and enjoying it. And just saying to myself, maybe I am, I'm just as sick as all of the rest of us, or you guys too. We need that applause. We need the approval. We must have been ignored as kids. I'm no different.
Yeah, I wasn't.
But I think that, as one of the few people that had that experience of doing it every night with Dave Letterman for 33 years, maybe I got it out of my system a little bit. I don't think I have. I'm not hungry to be on stage so much. I still love it, and I do things here and there, but I'm doing quite nicely, enjoying myself, and kind of saying, I did a lot of stuff. It wasn't so bad.
Paul, you wrote It's Raining Men, didn't you?
I did, sir. I wrote the music. I co-wrote it with an amazingly talented guy named Paul Shaffer.
Okay. But did you write other songs? What about writing music?
Well, I wrote the Letterman theme.
I did not know that.
For his new show, too, right?
Yes, and I wrote the theme. Yeah, I wrote another theme for his new show on Netflix, yes. Right. I never got off on writing.
Oh.
I mean, I was not smart enough to realize that that's where the money is. You got to do it. I didn't, what I loved is playing songs by the Four Seasons as loud as I could and getting the sound up around my ears, and I didn't have to buy records as a kid because I just used to do that. And that's really all I wanted to do.
New York is still your primary home?
Yes, sir. Although
we have LA time anymore?
We have, I come to LA once in a while. Both my kids, I should say our kids, because my wife's going to watch this. They're both out west. My daughter Victoria has got her own dog rescue organization called Pup Culture, based in Pasadena, and she's 24/7 rescuing and getting dogs adopted. And my son in Phoenix in school, so we got a pad out there so we could visit the kids.
Your son is in school. Your son is a doctor, isn't he?
He's in medical school, second year, and I'm saying, where did I go wrong?
Where did you go wrong?
I'm a jazz musician. And he's in medical school. I'm so proud of him, you can imagine.
Oh, of course.
I'm proud of Victoria, too. Victoria.
We are three proud fathers here.
Well, before we wrap it up, and we should wrap it up, but I tell you, Paul, thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate it. But I will say this, that Paul and Kathy, they have two kids, Will and Victoria.
Yes.
And as they were growing up, I was like, this kid, Will, he's bigger than Paul. He's playing football.
He was a quarterback in high school.
He was a quarterback. I'm going,
that was a little different than
this can't be.
My high school experience. Both Kathy and I had one tall relative. I had an uncle who was tall, and one of Kathy's brothers. I don't know. He lucked out. That's all I can say.
Yeah. Well, you lucked out. They're two great kids. They're really fantastic.
Well, I appreciate you. I know your kids too. And you went to NYU with my wife. Is that correct?
Well, before we came on, I'll quickly tell the story. We were in Mr. Goggins' class, who was very boring, and we were both very bored, and we were sitting next to each other. And I thought Kath, as you were, was adorable, and I made my move. And the way I made my move was I made the lines for tic-tac-toe, and I put an X, and then I pushed the paper over to Kathy, and she saw it. Then she made an O, and then she pushed. So we ended up playing tic-tac-toe, and that was how we started. Our friendship began.
You are smooth.
I've used the tic-tac-toe.
I wish I had known that trick when I could have used it.
Well, whatever you did worked. Hey, just so you know, my 20-year-old, I'm a proud father as well. I have a 20-year-old, and when I said Paul Shaffer's on the show, he knew who you were. In fact, he's been sneaking over my shoulder to watch you here, too.
He's your kid, so he's in show business.
Well, he knows.
Say hi. Well, guys, it's been a gas.
You've been great.
Absolutely.
So hilarious.
So
I'll
good
look
to
for
see you.
Movie.
Yes. Looking forward to seeing the Saturday night.
But wait
movie.
a second. Are you going to go out to the movie theaters to see the movie?
Yes, I think so.
Because somebody's going to be sitting next to you watching the movie, and you're going to come up.
That's my only line. Fine.
We'll find. Yeah.
They won't even notice.
Well,
All right, say goodnight, Gary.
Let me come on again after we see it, and we'll talk.
Yeah, that would be
great.
fun.
I'd
Actually,
love that. Thanks, pal.
Okay.
And Paul,
Go ahead, Gary. Say goodnight.
You're still my music. You are my music. Your voice was a little lighter back then. I'm sounding like Groucho Marx now.
Just like me, Gary. I wish you were doing me now.
Thank you so much for being on the show, Paul.
You proved I was doable.
I'm doable.
Thank you both.
I've been telling that story for 40 years. Paul Shaffer said to me, I'm doable.
I love it. That's
Maybe
fantastic.
that should be your autobiography. I'm doable.
That's for the second volume.
Right.
I got it.
Well,
Okay,
thank
thanks,
you.
guys.
Thank you, everybody, for watching the Gary and Kenny Show. Our guest today was Paul Shaffer, and it was a lot of fun for the last hour. You can catch us on our YouTube channel, on DBTV, streaming television, and all the popular podcast platforms. Until next time, I'm Gary, that's Ken, that's Paul down there. So long.
Bye.